Hi, I am Kendra Adachi, and I host the Lazy Genius podcast. A Lazy Genius principle is to decide once, and I have done that by deciding that Olive & June is my go-to brand for at-home manis. I don't like to waste time, and the Olive & June mani system has everything you need and nothing you don't, all with gorgeous polishes that don't chip. Visit oliveandjune.com/perfectmani20 for 20% off your first Olive & June system. That's oliveandjune.com/perfectmani20 for 20% off your first Olive & June system.
This is a Shares for Beginners quick tip. Essential lessons, questions answered. Jason McIntosh is the founder of Motion Trader, a subscription-based trading service for ASX-listed companies. In this quick tip, he talks about the best way to start learning about the market. So the question goes, Hi Phil, thank you for all the work you do with this podcast. I'm 27 and have just begun my investing journey. I found the whole system confusing. Finding helpful information which you could trust was extremely difficult. It was as if those inside the investing circle were part of a secret society and no one else was allowed in. The question I have comes from a statement made by one of your guests, Claude from Ethical Equities. Claude stated that one of the best things you can do is invest in your knowledge and understanding of investing. I'm keen to grow my knowledge. However, I'm unsure of what platform to use. What do I mean by this? Well, there's so many platform subscriptions which claim to increase your knowledge and improve your ability as an investor. For example, there's The Motley Fool, Morningstar, Simply Wall Street, QAV, A Rich Life, and the list goes on. Is there a way to choose which is the best service? Should you subscribe to one service or several? For individuals like myself, who was just starting with we won't mention the figures here in the market, subscribing to a service costing more than $500 to $1,000 per year means that my investments need to make a significant proportion of my capital just to cover the cost of the subscription. So, Jason, there's a lot there, but I think it comes down to where do people start in building up their knowledge of investing?
Finding where to start is, is often the hardest part of the journey. I remember one of my old bosses when I was at Bankers Trust. I was 22. I was probably 22, 23. I was on the foreign exchange dealing desk. And he said to me, Jason, if you want to fast track your knowledge and your success, he said, read widely. Get a lot of books, read about a lot of experiences from other people. And I remember this book which I read. It was called Market Wizards. It's dated now. It was written in probably around 1991. That said, there's a whole lot of wisdom in there still. But the point from that is I read the book, and it's a book of interviews with top traders and investors. And there must be probably about 10 or 12 or so interviews in there. And there were a couple of interviews which I really, really resonated with, really made sense to me. And they're the chapters that I went and read and reread and reread again, just over and over. I ingrained them and I made their ways my ways.
If I can just return to what Claude Walker was saying, who was referred to, there's one of his sayings which has really stuck with me, and that's match your risk to your experience. And I think that's an incredibly wise piece of advice, because you've actually got to be in the market doing it. You're not going to feel all the emotions unless there's real money involved. Would that be right, Jason?
Yeah. Paper traders, it's a good concept and it's good to get some initial ideas, but you don't get the emotions when you paper trade. You only get the emotions when you actually have real money on the line or real profits or losses in play. So you've got to actually get in and do it. But it's okay to start small. You start with, what a wise older trader once said to me. He said, start small, and you can always build your risk as your experience grows. And start with an amount of money which you wouldn't necessarily miss if you lost, and that helps diffuse the emotions from the process. And also, don't link that money to something tangible in the real world. Like, don't say, "Oh, well, look, if I lose this money, I can't go on that holiday," or that profit's a new suit, or whatever it may be. Don't link it to something real. It brings the emotions in, and it makes it a whole lot harder to manage. But if you've got a sum of money that you go, well, look, if I make money, if I lose that, it doesn't really change my world too much. Well, then that frees you up to follow a process properly and let a profit run or cut a loss or learn what it's like to do it. And as you start to build around that, you increase the amount of risk that you put on.
Yeah, another guest, one of his suggestions was that you actually start off, you get a small amount, you invest in one share, and then you study everything that you can about that share. You're looking at the charts, you're looking at the annual reports, and looking at analysts and what they're saying about it, and use that as a tuition fee almost on that one particular company.
Look, that's a good idea too. And it's all about working out what works for you. So some people will decide that they don't like price action analysis, like what I do. Some people will decide they don't need to know everything about the company. They don't need to know all the ins and outs and the profit forecast and such. Others will decide they like a combination, but they don't need to go into too much detail in one area or the other. And you've got to work out like who you are, because there's no single holy grail strategy that works for everyone and that works all the time. And this is what stumps a lot of people. I think a lot of people come to the markets with the idea that there's some secret that they've got to uncover to work out how to do this well. And, the secret is that there are no secrets. And the best strategies that people have been using, they've been using for decades, if not centuries. And they're all different. Some people will do this and some people will do that, and lots of different strategies can make money. It's about being able to find one that you can live with, isn't emotionally tearing you apart every time you put a trade on, because that's not going to work. You've got to be able to live with it. So find something that's compatible with you. Start with an amount of money that's not going to freak you out if things go the wrong way, that you can sit there and you can take it in and you can actually learn without having a period of terror and emotional upheaval. And I think that's how you do it. You find out who you are, and you got to know what your emotions are. You got to really learn about your emotional side. Sounds a bit funny, but it's such an important part of it. And once you start to build a system about how you approach things, a system becomes like your emotional firewall. So you then can start to dampen those emotions, because you know what you're doing now. Okay, if this happens, I'll do that. If that happens, I'll do this. That all comes with a bit of experience and a bit of learning what path you're going to go down, because everyone goes down different variations of the paths.
Okay, thanks very much, Timothy. I hope we've uncovered something there for you, and we've got something here for other listeners to learn from as well. So, Jason, thanks very much for your time.
Oh, my pleasure, Phil.
Yeah, and good luck, Timothy. Shares for Beginners is for information and educational purposes only. It isn't financial advice, and you shouldn't buy or sell any investments based on what you've heard here. Any opinion or commentary is the view of the speaker only, not Shares for Beginners. This podcast doesn't replace professional advice regarding your personal financial needs, circumstances, or current situation. Thanks to Christopher Soulos for music production with that special Greekalicious flavour. Remember, music always flows, even when the money won't.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
As a broadcast journalist, I've spent my life traveling the world and made my living interviewing the greatest fighters of all time. Until this day, I talk to the greatest fighters and thinkers about their fight. I'm Radio Raheem, till this day. Follow Till This Day to stay in the fight.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.